So today we'll be doing an NFL first round mock draft video. First, I want to get into though my Giants content. New York Giants content is not on this channel anymore. I still get some comments about that. It is on another channel called Fireside Giants. I've been posting there for about a month and a half, 2 months now. We have some good stuff over there. We even have some interviews out with some players. We're having one Thursday, I believe, and I'm still kind of surprised this player's actually doing it with us, but it'll be pretty cool when it's out, hopefully Thursday night, Friday morning. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested in the Giants content. For the NFL fans, let's get into the first round mock draft. So the actual draft's still about 2 weeks away, but I'm going to give this my best shot and see how it goes. So the first pick, I think most people have this, the Bengals taking the quarterback Joe Burrow. I think this one makes a lot of sense. Andy Dalton has one more year left on his contract. We're still not sure if he'll be there next year. I still highly doubt he'll be a Bengal next year, but you never know. Ryan Finley struggled in his, 3 or 4 starts, whatever it was last year, so he's probably not the future answer. And the head coach, Zach Taylor's in his second year. He's a former quarterback, an offensive type guy, so I'm sure he wants his own quarterback. He was kind of thrown into the whole Andy Dalton situation, so I'm sure he wants his own guy. And Joe Burrow is, as close to a flawless of a quarterback prospect as we've seen in recent years, so that's a pretty safe bet for a first overall pick. Number 2 for the Redskins, some people have them taking a quarterback, other people have them taking Chase Young. I'm going the Chase Young route. Ryan Kerrigan will be 32 years old next season. I think he'd be a good pairing with Montez Sweat, who had a pretty good rookie year. He was drafted late in the first round, had 7 sacks as a rookie. Ron Rivera is a defensive coach. I'm sure he'd love to get his hands on a guy like Chase Young, who's definitely the best pass rusher in this draft. And, they might attempt to trade this pick, but they're going to need a really, really good offer. I'm talking the Dolphins trading all their first round picks type of trade to get out of that pick. So I think this is a pretty safe one as well. I guess it's possible for them to take a quarterback. I could see Tua happening, but I don't know. I just think the most likely outcome right now is Chase Young going number 2 overall to the Redskins. So pick number 3 brings us our first trade. So I have the Dolphins trading up to take the quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, and I have the Dolphins trading with the Lions, and the Lions would receive the 5th pick, the 18th pick, and the 39th pick in the second round from the Dolphins. Of course, the Dolphins get the number 3 pick overall. So the Dolphins have spent the entire offseason working on their defense. I think it's time for them to try and get that franchise quarterback. They tried to trade for Josh Rosen last year. He started about, probably 3 or 4 games, did not work out the way they wanted it to. Ryan Fitzpatrick started a majority of the season. They had some bright moments with him, and I do think it's possible, even if they draft Tua, that Ryan Fitzpatrick could be the week 1 starter next year, but I think eventually Tua is going to get in there, obviously, depending on his health and all that stuff. So the trade, the Lions, I guess, it makes a lot of sense for them. They're still probably going to get their guy. They're only moving back 2 spots. I'm under the belief that they want Jeff Okudah, so with the Giants probably not going cornerback number 4, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Lions as well. And it might take a bit more than the 5th pick, the 18th pick, and the 39th pick to move up, but I think if I'm being realistic and having a somewhat decent trade here, that's the one I throw out there. So number 3 overall, Tua Tagovailoa going to the Miami Dolphins. Number 4 is my favorite team, the New York Giants. So if I've learned anything about the Giants and Dave Gettleman, they never take who I want. So the guy I want is Jedrick Wills. I have him going Tristan Wirfs. I think Dave Gettleman's a guy who has never traded down in the draft before, and with the Dolphins already trading up, there might not be a need to do so. So I think the Giants have a major need at offensive tackle. Nate Solder, basically uncuttable at this point, but definitely not a good option at left tackle. They have Cam Fleming on a 1-year deal, so the Giants definitely need an offensive tackle for the future. There are 3 really good ones at the top here, even 4 if you include Mekhi Becton, even though I would not do that, but there's 4 possibly. So the Giants are a team that definitely, whether it's the Jerry Reese era or the Dave Gettleman era, they always seem to fall in love with good combines, and Tristan Wirfs had one of the best offensive tackle combines we've seen in recent memory, so that's why I have Tristan Wirfs going number 4 to the Giants. With the number 5 pick via the trade back, I have the Lions taking Jeffrey Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State. So Darius Slay, of course, now in Philadelphia. He was the cornerback 1 for the Lions. They signed Desmond Trufant from the Atlanta Falcons. He's 29 years old. He's still playing at a pretty high level. He's not Darius Slay, but he's not too bad either. So they already have Trufant. They have Justin Coleman in the slot. So if they add Jeff Okudah to the secondary, they can have some really good cornerbacks here next year. I think this secondary can be very legit. Depends, of course, how Okudah plays in his rookie year. But this would be a really nice pick for them. I think the Lions are not too far off from competing. Of course, Matt Stafford needs to stay healthy, but I think if this pick is going to work work out, the Lions could be a very good team next year. Not saying they'll make the playoffs because they play in a tough division, but this is a team that, going from about 3 or 4 wins, whatever they had last year, they can probably jump to 7 or 8 wins if Matt Stafford's able to stay healthy next year. So I think Jeff Okudah to the Lions would be a nice fit. At number 6 overall, a lot of people have Justin Herbert going to the Chargers. For some reason, I just feel there's a lot of conflicting reports and whatnot. I'm not sure if they like him, so I'm going to go with they don't like him. I haven't taken Jedrick Wills to play tackle, so in the offseason, they made that trade Russell Okung, their former left tackle, to get Trey Turner, which is a move I love for the Chargers, by the way. Right now, they have a guy named Trent Scott at left tackle, which seems pretty risky, so it is possible they take Justin Herbert, but I think you have a team right now with the Chargers that is pretty much ready to win a lot of games. I mean, they have a really good defense there, obviously. Their offense has a lot of weapons as well, so if they get a good offensive line there, they added Brian Bulaga in the offseason to play right tackle, so if they can slide in Jedrick Wills to play left tackle and be a day one starter there, depends who they get at quarterback, obviously. That's the big thing right now. It's Tyrod Taylor. I've said, a few months ago, I think Jameis Winston might go there on like a 1-year deal. I think that'd be a very smart move for the Chargers and even for Jameis Winston because, look, the system they have there can definitely benefit him. They have a lot of good players as well, so I feel like why not do it if you're Jameis? So anyway, I think this would be a nice move for the Chargers. You definitely, shore up your offensive line, so that's definitely a good move there. And, the Chargers, as I said, have a defense to win right now. It just depends who the quarterback is. So Jedrick Wills is my pick for the Chargers at number 6. For pick number 7, I have the Panthers taking Isaiah Simmons, the defender from Clemson. Doesn't really have a position, but he's probably the most versatile player in this draft. And, this would be a perfect scenario for the Panthers because, Luke Kuechly abruptly retires. I wish him well, obviously. That's not like a bad thing. I'm not blaming him, but, I'm sure they did not expect that. But now they have another guy to fall in their lap here, number 7, a great possible linebacker for a long time. This guy is just very versatile. I think they can do better than Tahir Whitehead right now, who, had his ups and downs with the Raiders, but I think they can do better at linebacker. So if Isaiah Simmons is sitting there, I think you take that shot. I mean, I know it's not like a huge need right now at linebacker, but I mean, look, if you can find a cornerstone player on defense for a long time and have a guy like Isaiah Simmons sitting there who can play in multiple positions, I just don't see how you can pass on that if you're the Panthers. For pick number 8, I have Andrew Thomas going to the Cardinals. He is the offensive tackle from Georgia, so it's a tricky one because the Cardinals can go many ways about this. They just signed DJ Humphries, their left tackle, to an extension. They brought back Marcus Gilbert to play right tackle, but he definitely has a lot of health issues, so we'll see how many games he actually plays. And there's no clear, best player available at this point. I mean, Isaiah Simmons is now off the board. I guess Derek Brown's out there, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, but, you just traded for DeAndre Hopkins, basically traded nothing for DeAndre Hopkins, I should say. So, that's a great move for them, and there's not really a need to have another great receiver. They already have Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella, the big guy, I forget his name. He's entering his second year. I forget his name now. But they have a bunch of receivers there is what I'm trying to say. And, Gilbert rarely stays healthy, as I said, and Thomas has experience to play right tackle if they want to do that at first. And, Jedrick Wills would have been a better scheme fit because I think he has better movement skills, but Thomas has enough tools right now to be a good NFL player. Needs to work on his hands a bit, but I think in a system like this where, it's not too, you don't have to rely on the tackles too much in this type of system, I think it'd be a nice fit for Andrew Thomas. Number 9 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I absolutely have no idea what this team is doing. They seem to be in no man's land right now. Basically, their entire 2017 AFC Championship appearance team is gone. Nick Foles is gone. I mean, they have Gardner Minshew at quarterback, Joshua Dobbs, so I guess the idea of Justin Herbert possibly going here is entertained. They might go a quarterback in 2021. I really don't know where they're going to go. The Jags are definitely, David Caldwell, their GM, they're no strangers to taking a defensive lineman and, with their early picks, and that's why I have Javon Kinlaw. I think Kinlaw is a raw talent with a lot of upside. I think he has more upside than Derek Brown, so I think that's why teams might take Kinlaw over him. I've said this all offseason. If I was a GM, I would take Kinlaw over Derek Brown. I think Derek Brown's good at stopping the run. I don't think he has enough pass rushing potential, but I know Javon Kinlaw does, so I'd probably hang my hat on that. I know it's tough to take a guy like that 9th overall, but there's so much talent there for Javon Kinlaw. They also have Yannick Ngakoue, Josh Allen, so it make his transition to the NFL a lot easier playing with guys like that. I know Calais Campbell's gone now, but you still have some really good pass rushers there. Not sure how much longer Ngakoue is going to be there because he tweets about leaving the Jaguars basically every day, but for now he's there, so that's why I think Javon Kinlaw will be a nice pick. I don't know what the right pick would be for the Jaguars, honestly. They might go Justin Herbert. It would not surprise me, but honestly, I think later in the draft, I think I have Herbert going there anyway, so we'll see what happens. For the Cleveland Browns, they've had a pretty busy offseason with spending on players. I mean, of course, they got Jack Conklin, they got the tight end Austin Hooper as well. So the Browns, I mean, the big three at offensive tackles are gone. So I would not take a shot on Mekhi Becton here. And you do have a new GM in place, so I think it'd be very risky in terms of your job security to take a shot on Mekhi Becton and have him being a bust. So I think if you're the new GM, I think you just take the safest player available right here. I mean, Derek Brown's not like an actual need right now for this team, but if you add on to a defensive line that already has Myles Garrett, Shelton Richardson, it could end up being a very good move. So I think this might be the pick. It would not surprise me if they took a shot on Becton, but if I was a first-year GM, I would not want my first pick to be Mekhi Becton. That has too much risk tied into it. So, I mean, look, Derek Brown, I'm not the biggest fan of him, especially 10th overall, but if you're going to make the safest pick here, you already have Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. There's no point in taking the receivers here. So I think the pick here might be Derek Brown. So on to the picks 11 through 20 here. So I start with the Jets. The Jets signed George Fant, Connor McGovern, which was a move I was a fan of. I like McGovern. I mean, they they drafted Chuma Edoga a couple years ago. He's now slated to play right tackle. So, of course, you could throw Mekhi Becton onto this team. They have a first-year GM. I mean, he was not part of the draft last year. It was very weird how the Jets did it, but he was not part of the draft. So this is officially Joe Douglas's first draft. So they did lose Robbie Anderson. They replaced him with Brashad Perriman. So with Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb still on the board, I think that's definitely a possible pick, and that's why I have them going with CeeDee Lamb. I think he's the more complete player. I think he's a tiny bit safer than Jerry Jeudy as well. And Sam Darnold has not had an alpha wide receiver one yet in his career, unless you want to consider Robbie Anderson that. I personally don't, but you could say that, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I would have CeeDee Lamb and Sam Darnold playing together for, hopefully a decade, and hopefully that combination works out to be, the next Matt Ryan, Julio Jones type thing or whatever it is. So that would be a very nice pick for the Jets. I think it's a lot safer than going Mekhi Becton, but knowing the Jets, it would not surprise me if they went Becton either, so we'll see what happens. For pick number 12, I have the Raiders going Christian Fulton from LSU, the cornerback. So, look, these are the same guys that took Cleveland Ferrell last year, so they could shock us once again. And I think, Christian Fulton, this might be a tiny bit early for him, but I think you look at their cornerback depth, they have a need for a cornerback too right now, so I think taking a shot on Christian Fulton is probably not the worst idea in the world. Nevin Lawson's average, and they have Trayvon Mullen, who had a pretty successful rookie season. So, my cornerback two in this class is Christian Fulton, so I'd have the Raiders going with him. He's a player with really good instincts, and he had a very successful 2019 season despite playing injured for most of it. So I think this would be a nice pick for them. The Raiders can definitely shock us once again, so it would not really surprise me too much if Christian Fulton went here at number 12. Number 13, we have the San Francisco 49ers taking Jerry Jeudy. So this pick was originally for the Colts. They traded it for DeForest Buckner, which is actually one of those trades I think might work out for both teams, so I like that for both sides. So Emmanuel Sanders departed for New Orleans. I think Jerry Jeudy makes too much sense here. There's a slight chance of taking Justin Herbert if they're not on board with Jimmy Garoppolo. He has a contract and they can get out of pretty easily, I think, after this year, so it's definitely possible to take a quarterback here. I just don't see it happening because the Niners are too much in win-now mode and have too much of a stacked roster to have some type of quarterback competition with a rookie quarterback going on here. So this pick, you got a great route runner, a guy who knows how to get open, and I think it'll make Jimmy Garoppolo's job a lot easier. So I think Jerry Jeudy, if he's available here, would be definitely a home run pick for the 49ers. At number 14, we have the Buccaneers. I have them taking Xavier McKinney. So the Bucs starting free safety, Justin Evans, is coming off an Achilles injury, and I think by all means McKinney's going to be a better player, so you might as well take him. And I'm sure the Bucs are going to go all in this year. I mean, you don't sign Tom Brady when he's 43 years old just to flirt around with a 7-9, 8-8 type record. I'm sure they're going for it all this year. So I think McKinney might be a day one type guy that can go out there and make a big difference to your defense. So the Bucs, they could take a wide receiver 3 at this point, but it could be too early, especially with the top 2 receivers basically on everybody's board, off the board at this point. You could include Henry Ruggs in there, but I don't really see the point of doing that right now. So I think McKinney can be used in the slot if he's needed to. He's a solid tackler, and I think he'd be a very nice piece of this underrated Bucs defense. So I like this pick a lot. The Buccaneers actually made it. So pick number 15, I have a trade. The Cowboys are going to move up 2 spots to take C.J. Henderson, the cornerback. The trade would be Denver receiving the 17th overall pick, and the Cowboys' third-round pick, number 82 overall. And, of course, Dallas gets pick number 15. So with Atlanta sitting at 16 and them needing a cornerback, I think Dallas trades up to get their guy. Not really sure if C.J. Henderson's their guy, but I think he's by far the best on the board at this point with with Fulton off the board and Jeffrey Okudah, of course. So, Byron Jones went to Miami, so they have some need at cornerback depth. They have a lot of guys that have 1 year left on their contract, so the Cowboys secondary is a bit iffy, especially their cornerbacks. And, Henderson's probably the best cornerback available. Does have really good man coverage ability and quickness, does need to improve on his tackling, but I think he's pretty close to a really good prospect. Should be a pretty solid starter in the NFL. So for the Cowboys, who are expected to compete next year, I think this would be a right move to trade up for a guy you really need, because after this, there's kind of a drop-off when it comes to cornerbacks. So pick number 16, I have the Falcons going Patrick Queen from LSU. So the Falcons definitely have a cornerback problem, but they could reach on Trayvon Diggs, they could reach on A.J. Terrell, but I think right now that probably would not be the right move. So I have them taking the best player available at this point, and I think Patrick Queen might be that guy. So they don't have much at linebacker aside from Deion Jones. Of course, he can play next to him, and he'd be a very good option. Adds a lot of versatility. He can play in coverage and soak up a bunch of tackles in the run game as well. Just a very athletic player, just like Deion Jones. So if you put two Deion Joneses on defense, it might be a good outcome. So I think this would be a pretty good pick for them, but obviously C.J. Henderson probably would have been a better fit for what the Falcons need right now. So at pick number 17, the Broncos are up. They were originally 15, but they traded back with the Cowboys. So now I have them taking Henry Ruggs III. So it makes sense because the Falcons, you look at them, they're probably not a team that needs a wide receiver with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. So it would make sense for the Broncos to trade back and only take a third-round pick basically in return, because you're probably going to get your guy regardless here. So as I said, originally the Cowboys pick, I think Ruggs is possibly a wide receiver 1 on some people's boards. I've heard of that before, so it's not the craziest outcome. I mean, picking him at 17 seems like pretty good value, so this would definitely help Drew Lock a lot. They have Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton, Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, Noah Fant. They have a bunch of good weapons on this team already, so add Henry Ruggs, make your young quarterback's job easier. Their offensive line, I think, is pretty solid for the most part. I know they lost Connor McGovern, but they should be fine, so I think this would be a good pick for the Broncos. Henry Ruggs has a ton of upside, as we all know, so playing alongside Cortland Sutton would be very interesting. So pick number 18 is now the Detroit Lions. It was originally the Miami Dolphins, but based off that 5-3 trade we had before, it's going to be the Lions picking now. I haven't taken K'Lavon Chaisson, so this would be an ideal spot for Justin Herbert possibly, but Matt Stafford's contract's very hard to get out of until 2022, so there's really no point in taking a quarterback now. I think Chaisson would be better for a 3-4 defense, obviously as an edge rusher, but I think even in a 4-3, he can make it work as a defensive end. So, they had Deshaun Hand. He was not that good for them last season. They have Trey Flowers, obviously, on the big contract, so this could be a nice fit. There's so much potential with this player. If the Lions feel they can make it work, I feel this is a good value here at number 18 overall. Probably the best pass rusher on the board right now. I know you're banking a lot on upside and stuff like that, but if the coaches feel they can get a lot out of him, I feel why not take a really good pass rusher potentially right here. Number 19 overall, this pick is supposed to be the Chicago Bears. This is part of the Khalil Mack trade, and now it belongs to the Raiders. And that was a trade a lot of people mocked at first. I guess that's why you have to let trades, have a couple years before you judge them. So if this pick hits for the Raiders, that trade will look a lot better. So I have them taking the wide receiver T. Higgins, and I had them taking Christian Fulton, 12th overall. They might need some wide receiver help as well. They have Hunter Renfrow, they have Tyrell Williams, but they need somebody else, I believe. So this might be a good landing spot for Justin Herbert, but they already got Marcus Mariota over there. Derek Carr has a big contract, I meant to say, so you can't really get out of that right now. So T. Higgins is a big receiver, can win many jump ball situations, really good red zone option as well to go along with Darren Waller, Tyrell Williams, so they should be a really good red zone team, especially if they make this pick. I'm not the biggest T. Higgins guy. I think some people overrate him, but I think, people around the NFL seem to like him a lot, so I could see him going in the top 20, and the Raiders definitely have a need at wide receiver, in my opinion. So, if the top 3 guys at receiver are off the board, being Judy, Ruggs, and CeeDee Lamb, then I can see them taking T. Higgins right here. For pick number 20, we have the Jaguars now. This pick was originally with the Los Angeles Rams, but this was part of the Jalen Ramsey trade during last season. So now Justin Herbert is still on the board in this mock draft, and I say, you know what, why not take the chance? Justin Herbert's a guy that I'm personally not sold on. He could be really good, he could be really bad, he could be like Josh Allen possibly and just be average so far. I really don't know. So he has a ton of arm strength, great stature, great athleticism, but has some problems with intermediate throws, consistency issues as well. But the Jaguars, as I said, they're in no man's land. Why not take a shot on a guy who could be a franchise quarterback? This is your second pick in the first round. They already have Javon Kinlaw, a pretty good defense defense over there. Their secondary did get worse. It's diminished now. We know no Jalen Ramsey, no A.J. Boye. A lot of guys in 2017 are not there, as I mentioned before, but they still have a good defensive line. Their offensive line is pretty young. It's not terrible, so, there's not much to work on there. So I'm like, you know what, why not just give them a quarterback with a ton of upside? They could go Jordan Love, obviously, but I think Justin Herbert's a prospect that more NFL teams are after right now. So I'm like, you know what, let's just give them Justin Herbert here. It makes sense. There's Gardner Minshew, obviously, but we're not sure if he'll be the answer. There's Joshua Dobbs behind him. I mean, I doubt he's the answer. So, if I'm the Jaguars sitting here in this situation, I'm like, why not take a shot on Justin Herbert? If it hits, that's fantastic. If not, you go for a quarterback next year or the year after. So now on to picks 21 through 32. So we have a trade right here. The Seahawks are going to trade up with the Eagles. They get the 21st pick, and the Eagles receive the 27th pick and a 2021 second-round pick. So here is Mekhi Becton, and I'm sure some of you are screaming at me right now. You're like, how can you have Justin Herbert and Mekhi Becton going outside the top 20? Well, look, that's the beauty of mock drafts. We have no idea where people are going to go. I'm sure there's going to be a couple people in the comments that are going to tell me they know where people are going, but honestly, we don't know. So that's what's the fun part about doing a mock draft is. It's just you can make your own thing over here. So I have Mekhi Becton going here because I think it makes a lot of sense. It's like a match made in heaven type of thing. So the Seahawks are a team that loves to run the ball, and I think Mekhi Becton might be one of the best run blockers in this draft, and he does have some flaws in the pass protection, but they run so many play actions over there, I feel like it'll be similar to what he did at Louisville. So I was like, you know what, this might be a really good scheme fit for him. And I think a lot of times prospects' success in the NFL depends on what team they go to. I mean, DK Metcalf, for example, I don't know if that guy would succeed not saying anywhere else, but I think Seattle was a perfect system for him because he wasn't getting targeted too much, but when he was, it was effective, obviously. I mean, Russell Wilson's one of the most efficient quarterbacks I've ever seen. So, a lot of deep balls, and Russell Wilson was placing them perfectly. He's one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. So having him, DK Metcalf, go there was a perfect fit. And this could be another perfect fit. You have Mekhi Becton on one side, Dwayne Brown on the other side, playing next to DJ Fluker, who's playing right guard. I'm assuming Becton would play right tackle in this scenario. You have just giant people on this offensive line. So it might work out really well. I think this is a scheme that can fit well for him, and the Eagles don't have a clear pick right here. There's not a great wide receiver on the board. And, if you're them, why not acquire a second-round pick for next year as well? The Eagles definitely are a team that, they're not afraid to trade back, so I could see this happening. The Seahawks are a team that usually trades back, but if you have a guy like Becton and that upside on the board, I say why not go ahead and take that. Pick number 22 of the Minnesota Vikings. This was acquired from Buffalo in the Stephon Diggs trade. So after Diggs' departure, the Vikings have a clear need at wide receiver. I think Tajay Sharp is their wide receiver 2 right now after Adam Thielen, so that's not so good. I think Justin Jefferson would have been a solid pick here at 22, but he primarily plays a slot, and that's where Adam Thielen plays most of the time as well, so I feel like that would not be a good fit. Xavier Rhodes is gone, so now they have a need at cornerback, and you know what? I think a team is going to fall in love with the Utah cornerback, Jalen Johnson. So I think Johnson is a guy who has the makings of a cornerback 1. He loves to talk trash, super athletic, very solid in man coverage, a student of the game. You can tell he likes to watch film because of the stuff he does on the field. It's a high risk, high reward type of pick, but I think it has a really good chance of working out, especially in this scheme. I think it's a pick that, I do think one team's going to fall in love with this guy. When I watch Johnson on tape, it's a guy that I would definitely take a shot on late in the first round. It's a very good cornerback draft, so I could see them going some other way here, but, with a clear need at cornerback and wide receiver, the Vikings actually have a pick and 3 more picks, so, we'll talk about wide receiver later possibly, but right now I think Jalen Johnson would be a very good pick here, and he definitely need an alpha corner with Xavier Rhodes departing, so I think this might be the right guy to take here. For pick number 23, we have another trade, so this one's going to be between the Patriots and the Packers. So the Packers are going to acquire pick number 23 right here. The Patriots, who definitely love to trade back, are going to get pick number 30 and a third-round pick from Green Bay this year. So basically, they're going to take Justin Jefferson here. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Packers because it's a good fit. You had Devontae Adams and Devin Funchess, who was recently signed, to play outside, Justin Jefferson to play the slot. And you know what? The Packers have had so many issues beyond Devontae Adams. Guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, for instance, trying to get open consistently. It was not happening. We had Alan Lazard last year, a bunch of just random guys running around for the Packers, and I'm like, this would be a good pick here because Justin Jefferson is very good at getting open. He knows what he's good at, and he's a receiver that can fit very well in this team. So I think, the Packers have some needs, especially offensively, but, there's a new tight end that they need, and, Jimmy Graham is gone now, but there's really no tight end you can take at number 23 overall in this draft, in my opinion. And, the Patriots are a team that, they definitely love to trade back. As I said, they could take Jordan Love here, but I just don't see them going that route. I think they'll add somebody in free agency, whether it's Cam or whether it's Andy Dalton or someone like that. I mean, Andy Dalton's not a free agent, but they might make a trade for him or something like that. But I do think Cam Newton to the Patriots is a possibility, so we'll see if that happens. And, for Green Bay, this makes a lot of sense. As I said, you have your slot receiver. I know Devontae Adams played a lot of slot last year, but he's primarily an outside receiver. You have Devin Funchess, who hopefully has a healthy season this time, so we'll see what he can do. So, I mean, this is a guy, as I said, knows how to get open, can make some big plays happen, so I think Justin Jefferson would be a very good pick right here. Number 24 overall, I have the New Orleans Saints taking Kenneth Murray to play inside linebacker, I guess middle linebacker in a 4-3, so I looked at the Saints depth chart. There was not much going on at middle linebacker. Really, everywhere else they seem fine. I mean, maybe they need a new cornerback too, but I know Eli Apple is gone. They had Janoris Jenkins now, but we'll see how he does. He's probably like 31, 32 years old at this point, so we'll see what he has left, but they should be all right there. CJ Gardner-Johnson they have as well. I'm a fan of him, so they should be okay there. But as for inside linebacker, not much going on for the Saints right now, so I think Kenneth Murray would be a perfect fit. He's a tackling machine, very athletic, obviously a sideline-to-sideline type player. Does have his concerns in pass coverage, but I guess we'll see what happens in the NFL. I mean, things could change. It depends on the scheme. So this would be a good fit for the Saints. The Saints are a team that's probably going to go all in one more year. I know Drew Brees was definitely on the verge of retiring this offseason apparently, but decided to go for one more year. So this is probably the Saints' maybe last chance in the Drew Brees era to go out and get a Super Bowl ring. And, to have a guy like Murray to come in here who should be NFL ready from day one would be a nice pick. So if he can be that guy in the middle of the field making a lot of tackles and, just shoring up the run game and stuff like that, it'd be a fantastic pick for the Saints. Number 25 overall, so we have the Vikings again. This is their actual pick. The last one was from the Bills, as I said before. So I have A.J. Epinesa right here. So Epinesa played primarily in a 4-3, and that's what the Vikings run, so I think this would be a nice fit. It seems like Everson Griffin's going to find a new team this offseason. He's still a free agent. They had Danielle Hunter, obviously, to play the other defensive end position. So I'm not the biggest Epinesa guy. He's not the most athletic guy out there, although he did produce very highly in college. But when you look at his metrics and stuff like that, I was not a fan of his combine. I think he has some, athleticism, issues that might limit him in the NFL, but he should be a very solid player. He definitely can stop the run. He can get around probably 7-8 sacks per year. I just don't expect Epinesa to ever be a superstar in the NFL, but when you're taking him 25th overall, I think that's pretty fair value for a guy like that, and I think he'll have a very solid NFL career, so I would like this pick a lot if he fell to the Vikings. Number 26 overall, we have the Dolphins once again. So they traded their last pick, number, 18 overall, to the Lions. I believe this pick is from the Laramie Tunsil trade because this seems like an area where the Texans got out last year. So right here, the Dolphins at 26. I have them taking Josh Jones from Houston, the offensive tackle. I'm a big Josh Jones guy, so I had them taking Tua Tagovailoa, 3rd overall. Now you get another tackle to, basically help him in his development. So, this is actually from the Houston trade, as I mentioned before, and I think Jones is one of the most underrated players in this draft. I think he's tremendous in pass protection. He's not like a mauler in the run game, but he gets the job done. Very smooth with his movement skills, very athletic for his size. So I think right now he might play right tackle from Miami. It really depends because Tua is a lefty, so I really don't know which way they're going to play it. But, there's a chance, as I said, that Ryan Fitzpatrick starts the season, so I guess they'll cross that bridge when they come to it. But I think for Josh Jones, Ezra Cleveland could be a pick here as well. I think people like Austin Jackson. I'm not one of those people, but a lot of people do like Austin Jackson. I do think that's a pretty big development project there, but I think Josh Jones is one of those guys who might be a day one NFL ready type guy that I don't think enough people are talking about. So we'll see if the Dolphins pull the trigger on a starting tackle late in the draft, or late in the first round, I should say. So at 27 overall, we now have the Eagles after the Seahawks trade with Mekhi Becton earlier, but I know like 99% of mock drafts seems like they have the Eagles going wide receiver in the first, but honestly, they can wait till the 2nd or 3rd round. There's plenty of good receivers in this draft in the 2nd or 3rd round, even beyond that. So with Brandon Graham up there in age and Derek Barnett, who has not lived up to his draft pick, where he was picked basically yet in his career, they might be looking for a defensive end at this point, and I think Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State might be that guy. He's surprisingly athletic for his size, and somebody just has a perfect build. I'm not really sure he's going to be a star in the NFL, but he definitely has a ton of upside. I wasn't the biggest fan of watching him. I wish he was a bit more explosive, but he's definitely very strong, has some decent pass rushing moves. He's definitely good against the run, so I like that. But I don't really think he's like a fully developed player yet. He could develop into that, but he'll be playing on a good defensive line, especially the Eagles always have a good front seven, so that'll be definitely a good thing for him. But they could go wide receiver here, as I said before. I'm not exactly sure, but I think a player like Gross Matos, him being on the board still, I think the Eagles say, you know what, let's try and get a guy who could be a very good pass rusher one day, because honestly, as I said, Brandon Graham getting up there in age, Derek Barnett has not lived up to, I think he was like the 14th pick a few years ago, so hasn't lived up to that yet. So I figure why not take a chance on a pass rusher right here. Number 28 overall, I have the Baltimore Ravens taking Zach Bond. So I talked about before with the Seahawks, sometimes people are just really good fits for certain teams. I think Zach Bond with the Ravens would just be another match made in heaven right here. So the Ravens do need a guard after Marshall Yonda's retirement, but there's really no guard you can take at 28 overall. Of course, you could take one. I just feel like it'd be a reach at this point. I do love Netani Muti, but his injury concerns might keep him out of the first round. So there's a guy named Chris Board right now starting an inside linebacker for this team, and people have talked about Zach Bond being an off-ball linebacker. I'm not really sure if he'll play edge or off-ball. I'm not really sure, honestly. He definitely has the athleticism and, has the movement skills to do both, in my opinion, so we'll see what they do. But, a defensive coordinator like Don Martindale, who's one of the best in the game right now, he'll find the best way to use a guy like Zach Bond. And Zach Bond's going to be a pretty good player. I definitely don't know about his ceiling. I have concerns about that. I don't think he'll be a star, as I said, with a few other guys in this, in this range, but I think Zach Bond has the potential to be a very solid player, especially if he goes to a team like the Ravens. They'll use him the right way. So he's a bit undersized, but he's very athletic. I think has a really good motor as well. So I think Zach Bond might be a really good pick here for the Ravens. They could use it. As I said, not sure what position he'd play exactly, but I think with a defensive coordinator as smart as they have a great secondary as well. I think this Ravens defense is very good, and they might be a Zach Bond away from hopefully maybe winning a Super Bowl one day. Number 29 overall, I have the Titans taking Ezra Cleveland. So this one, an offensive tackle from Boise State. So Jack Conklin leaves to go to the Browns, as I mentioned before. They could use a right tackle right now. They signed Dennis Kelly to play right tackle. Not sure if he's a long-term answer right now. So there are a few positions I could see them addressing here. Possibly running back if they don't want to sign Derrick Henry to a long-term deal after this year. Of course, he was franchise tagged. They have decent cornerbacks. They have Adoree Jackson. They have Malcolm Butler, but not much beyond that. But my pick here is Ezra Cleveland. So this guy killed it at the combine. That really got him on the map and got him recognized. I do think he's a bit of a better pass blocker than run blocker, which might not be good for the scheme because obviously the Titans would like to be a run-first team. We saw that in the playoffs. But there was a lot of times in the regular season where they passed the ball very efficient as well. So I think Ezra Cleveland will be fine overall. Some say he needs to get a bit stronger, but when you talk about all the tools and having the athleticism and the footwork, I think Ezra Cleveland has everything you'd want. So I think the Titans might take him. Could be a day one starter for them at right tackle. At number 30, we have the New England Patriots. This was originally the Green Bay Packers, but they traded back, of course. So I have no clue what the Patriots are going to do. There's a lot of holes on this team, honestly. They could go tight end. I like guys like Cole Kmet, Adam Troutman, but it might be a bit early for that. So I have them going nose tackle and give them Neville Gallimore. So Gallimore did play in a 4-3 at Oklahoma. The Patriots are a 3-4 team, so can he play nose tackle and maybe put on 10 pounds? I think he's like 305 or something like that. So it is possible he could put on a little more weight, but I think he'll be fine. The Patriots defense, they've lost guys, even some linebackers, Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins. So I still think they'll be a top 10 defense next year. I mean, they have a very good secondary still. They might need to beef up that front seven a bit, and Neville Gallimore might be a really good guy to throw in there. And I think, he'll be fine. I don't think the Patriots have much of a defensive tackle right now. I think they signed somebody from Tampa Bay who I never heard of, so that's their starting nose tackle right now. So I could definitely see them addressing that position in the first round, and Neville Gallimore might be their guy. At number 31, I have the 49ers taking Ross Blacklock from TCU. So the Niners, they needed a wide receiver and a defensive tackle. I had them taking Jerry Jeudy earlier. I think if not, Denzel Mims would have been a good pick here, but of course I'm not going to take two wide receivers in the first round. That would make no sense. So I'm going to go Blacklock here because of the Jerry Jeudy pick. So he is a super explosive player for his size, could be a decent pass rusher one day. Doesn't really have the pass rushing moves right now, but definitely has shown the potential to do so. And some people question his strength, whether he's strong enough, so that's a concern as well. But I think on a team this good, it'll definitely benefit him a lot, playing with Nick Bosa and D Ford, guys like that, and even Eric Armstead. So he has a great team around him if he goes here, and I think he'll fit in perfectly. Definitely can stop the run, very explosive, as I said, so this could be a very nice pick for the 49ers. And for pick number 32, I have the Chiefs going cornerback Trayvon Diggs, so of course the brother of Stephon Diggs. So the defending Super Bowl champs do have some holes in their defense. They need a cornerback, defensive end, linebacker, so I'm sure they'll address those positions throughout the draft. But I do want to go with the best cornerback available here in my mind, and it's Trayvon Diggs. There's other good cornerbacks left at this point. I can't think off the top of my head, but there are some good ones in this draft, obviously. So Diggs might not be the best on everybody's board, but in my mind, I've always been a Trayvon Diggs fan. So has a perfect body type for a cornerback. I think he's super long. He's great at defending deep balls, a former wide receiver, so he's relatively new to the whole cornerbacks thing. I mean, I think he's been here playing cornerback for about 2 or 3 years, so he could get better and better as his career goes on. So I'm excited for him. He definitely has a great body type to play that position, so we'll see what happens, and I think going to the Chiefs will definitely help. So that'll do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will do a round 2 if you want me to. If you enjoyed this video, I'll definitely do a round 2, maybe like a few days before the draft to try and make this more accurate, because, with mock drafts, if I get 5 picks right here, I'll be thrilled about it, because it's very hard to get these things right. So it's fun though, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you made it all the way, I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.